Drones have become wildly popular over the last 2 years, and for good reason. All those shots that you just saw were shot on my Mavic for my vlog. And with the rise of consumer-focused video drones, like the Mavic and other ones, getting stunning aerial footage is easier than ever. That being said, drones are still very expensive. At least the ones that you'd want to buy for video purposes. The minimum amount of money you'd spend on a good video drone is about $400 or $500. And that's the minimum. They go up from there, way up. Most people cannot afford that. Also, a lot of people live in cities or countries where it's simply illegal to fly a drone. But you are in luck, because in this video, I'm going to show you a way to get great looking dynamic aerial shots for virtually no money. All you'll need is a computer, the internet, and video editing software. But before we dive into it, let me show you a little example of the types of shots that you'll be able to create after watching this tutorial. The main piece of software and tool that we're going to be using to get these drone shots, other than the video editing software afterward, is going to be Google Earth. I have Google Earth Pro installed here on my computer. Even though it's Pro, it's still free. It's a little bit more powerful, gives you a few more options, that's why I have it here. But if you didn't want to install it on your computer, or if your computer's not really that powerful, you can actually go to google.com/earth and use it within your browser. I mean, if you look at these shots here on their landing page, they just look amazing on their own. You just click Launch Google Earth, and it'll take you, it'll load the page, and then it'll launch Google Earth, and you can just search for anywhere you want and run it from here. But we're not going to do that. We're actually going to run Google Earth Pro here on my computer, and when it loads, for the first time for you, you'll probably also see this sidebar and this toolbar. We're going to eventually turn that off, but before you do, in the layer section here, down on the left, make sure you turn on 3D buildings and terrain, and turn everything else off. If you leave some of this stuff on, borders and labels and places, it's not going to look realistic. So you want to have 3D buildings turned on, that's what gives it that nice depth, and you want to have terrain turned on so that it looks realistic in the textures. Once you have those enabled and everything else turned off, we can get rid of this sidebar, and the next thing you'll want to do if it's the first time coming in here is go to Tools and Options. So most of this stuff you're going to leave as is, but textures and colors, if it's not on for you on True Color, turn it on True Color, and let's turn on Compress. This is going to make it a little load a little bit faster. Everything else you can leave as is, except for anti-aliasing. If this is on off, put it on medium or high, make it look a little bit more realistic and not have those jagged edges. And the important part is this terrain section. I have Use High Quality Terrain checked on because my computer is a little bit more powerful. If you find that your computer is chugging along, it's not rendering things like it's supposed to, feel free to turn this off. It's not going to look as realistic, but it'll still look really great. And then use 3D imagery. It's important that this is checked. If it's not, then it's not going to look very realistic. They'll still be sort of 3D, but not as good. And then for me, I'm going to enable, so if you look at the Earth, see how it's nice and vivid, lots of detail. I'm going to use this, use photorealistic atmosphere rendering, and when I click apply, you'll see not as vivid, but that is important, and that's okay because it makes it, the buildings and things look a little bit more realistic, like there's a haze in the air, like there is in real life, not just perfect. Everything else, all these other tabs, you can go through on your own and see if there's anything you want to enable or disable, but it's mainly for other things that don't suit our purposes. So we're just going to leave them as is. If you haven't clicked apply yet, click apply and then okay. So we need to find a location. I think if we go to the Eiffel Tower in France, that'll be a good location for us. So you'll see already it looks pretty great, and if we move it around, you can see the Eiffel Tower is in 3D, That's awesome. But it's got this label here. It says Eiffel Tower. The reason is because we searched for it. In order to get rid of this label here, which we don't want in our video, obviously, because labels aren't just hovering in midair in real life, let's open back our sidebar and just clear, by clicking that little X there, the location. Let's do that. We can close it. Now we need to set up our shot. This is the most important part, and the thing that's going to make your videos look the most real is setting up a convincing shot. So if we just zoom in a little bit here, and by holding down Control and dragging, I can change the perspective. But if we see here, if I had a drone in real life and was able to fly next to the Eiffel Tower, what I would do, set up a shot something like this where I can see all of Paris and then just sort of fly backwards. It's not rendered, so it doesn't look very realistic. But you can see here, even though they have these really great textures of the Eiffel Tower on here, you can't see through it. And so it doesn't look very realistic. And you keep in mind things like water and that kind of stuff, but that doesn't look very realistic. If I compose my shot a different way, I can actually get a really, really convincing shot. So what we do here is do a top-down, and just from experimenting, I found that these work the best in cityscape scenarios. So again, I'm holding down Control and using my mouse to move around like that. Zoom in and out is just the mouse scroll wheel. And what we want to do is set this up so that the tip of the Eiffel Tower is right in the middle. Again, another pro tip. If you hold down the Alt button and then use the arrows to move around, you'll move around much slower. So this is normal movement, very quick. This is Alt movement, nice and slow. Okay, so I set up a shot here, right where this intersection's in the middle of the shot. And in order to get things set up completely, what we're going to do is remove the toolbar up here at the top, go to full screen. Nope, I was already on full screen. Make sure you're in full screen, and then use whatever program you're going to use to record your screen. Start it. I'm using OBS Studio. I won't explain how to use it because it would take way too long, and there are other videos online that explain it really well. So you can click up there. I've included one up here in the top that you can go to watch. If you're using a Mac, you can just use QuickTime to record your screen, but there are many different options. I'll let you choose what you want to use. But right now, begin, record your screen. And let's make sure we're clicked in here. Hold down Alt and just begin the movement. There we go. And bam, right over the Eiffel Tower. I'm going to stop as soon as I get to the water because if you look, go any further, that water's not moving. It just looks very static, and so it's not very real. The other thing you'll notice is that there aren't any people on the ground, there aren't any cars. If you're doing a nice quick shot, that's not going to be that noticeable, but be aware of that if you're in a city setting where you're doing one of these shots, because you know, people expect to see cars and people walking around. Now we have our shot. Let's go into our video editor. So I now have Premiere Pro open. This is the video editor of my choice. You can use any video editor really, as long as it has multi-track editing for videos, and you can do a little bit of color grading, which is important. But this is what I choose to use. And you can see here I have the clip imported. If we look at it, it's a short clip, but it's a really dynamic one. One that we wouldn't normally be able to get, especially if we don't have a drone. So there we go. It already looks pretty good, but one thing we can do to make this look really great is to throw some color grading on it. And the easiest way to do that is by using a LUT, or lookup table. In Premiere Pro, they have a lumetri color, however you want to say it. And I can just grab a look here. Let's just cycle through here. Alright, I got a look that I'm happy with. It's a little bit more dramatic than I would normally go with, but for these purposes, it's actually nice. Because if this doesn't look like something that came out of your computer. It looks like video that you took the time to color grade. So if we watch this now again, if we watch it back, I think that looks pretty good. Especially when we get to the Eiffel Tower part, you can see it's 3D. That looks great. One thing you're probably noticing is that we have this big Google Earth logo here, and a little bit of text right here, plus the toolbar at the top. This part is optional, obviously, but I will warn you that in the user license agreement for using Google Earth, they do say something to the effect of you won't do anything to remove branding or I don't remember the exact language. So I'm just warning you right now, if you decide to cover this up or remove it, it may be against Google's rules for using Google Earth. I don't know for sure, I'm not a lawyer, but just throwing that out there. So I'm going to show you an option for hiding it if you want to. So what we can do is if we go back to our program or project here, I actually have a letterbox template that I can throw on top. And let's make sure that covers the whole clip. And voila, we have dramatic widescreen footage. The Google Earth stuff is covered up and the video still looks good, so let's watch that back. Looks like an establishing shot from The Bourne Identity or something, doesn't it? It's amazing. And we did that all in the computer here. Listen, this method isn't going to fool a lot of people into thinking this is real unless you spend a ton of time on adding those little details and know how to use After Effects and that kind of stuff. But that's not the point of this. A shot, any shot that you add, whether it be aerial or otherwise, should always serve your story. You should never add a shot just because it looks cool. It should always be there for a reason, whether it be to establish the location or set a specific mood. It should always serve the story. And because of that, don't think to yourself, oh, I'm tricking my viewers or I'm cheating because I'm doing it this way instead of actually getting a drone and getting an aerial shot. Because as low-budget filmmakers, as YouTube creators, it is our job to use every single tool available to us to tell our story, to make great content that's engaging and gets our point across. Devin Graham, Devin Supertramp, I'm sure you've heard of him, says something to the effect, I'm going to paraphrase here, but he says, anything for the shot. And I think that this falls into that category. If you don't have the means to own a drone and get aerial footage via a drone or otherwise, it's perfectly okay to do that using this method, as long as your story calls for something like that. So, that's all. That's all you have to do. If you have any tips for others as you're trying this out, leave them in the comments below or any questions for me. And if you do try this out yourself and you make some really cool aerial shots, please share them with me on Twitter. I'm at @checkoutjacob. I would love to see them. I would absolutely love to see them. I mentioned this earlier, but most of the stuff I make on this channel are vlogs, travel vlogs and vlogs exploring New York City, where I live. So if you haven't checked that out, if you're new here watching this video, please go to my channel page, click up here. Here's a playlist of a lot of my travel vlogs, my New York City explorations. Check it out. I think that you'll enjoy it. And if you do, please consider subscribing. Also, if you want to check out another video, another tutorial I made about how I edit my Instagram photos, you can click here. Thank you, as always, very much for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!